4 album sales in 09.
Did you hear that? He was gay. Keep it real.
Ross, I'm not gonna say I heard that.
Yeah, but it's
I
true.
didn't hear that.
But it's the truth.
How do you know that's the truth?
He's gay. The world knows he's gay. But more importantly, it's the truth that you heard he was gay. Because everybody in the room said they heard he was gay.
Did they?
So I know you heard it. Like the slippery soap.
Thank you. Yo, I actually washed the car because I'm supporting my brother. I'm not just buying slippery soap. I'm actually using it myself. So
They said
for real. I'm proud of my brother, for real. I was saying like how he had the car show, he pulled up on me.
He pulled it off.
And I got to use his products. And we was like, you know, let's have a, you know, an act of love. Because washing the car, most hustlers don't wash a car.
Not no
a lot of cats got ego.
A lot of times you feel like you too big for
Yeah, they got shame in their game. We don't have no shame in our game. We gonna get to this money. We gonna wash a car. We gonna go door to door. Ain't nothing stopping this. Ain't nothing stopping this. We want it all.
Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the
correct.
criminal,
I know that.
In the criminal case, no.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Wow, you guys, if you thought it couldn't get any worse, it actually does. Diddy's being hit with another SA lawsuit, but this time from a former male employee. And he's saying that Diddy would touch him inappropriately.
Elaborate, sometimes days-long parties by coercing victims through drugs, threats, and manipulation. They claim to have video evidence, and some of the accusations echo details from over 70 civil lawsuits filed against Combs over the last 30 years.
Panda is a secret code for a certain thing. And so when it comes down to that certain thing, what it is you basically have a certain nerve in your rectum, and if you touch that nerve, you can turn a person into an animal. You can turn a person into whatever you want them to be if you just hold them.
Can someone come to Hollywood and not do drugs?
Yeah.
And be successful?
Oh, hell yeah. That's easy.
It's not a requirement.
Bro, the requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he's gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
Nigga, you can take the bitch, but he won't you. He ain't worried about that bitch. he is not worried about that bitch at all. Okay, he ain't.
Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, you know, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something.
The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to exploit both women and men for decades.
Back up a little bit, please.
How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
At trial, Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes, as his lawyers argue the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York, ready to surrender to face these charges, but prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some who are going to be witnesses in this case. They urge the judge to remand him.
Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that Both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to seat a jury in that amount of time.
Federal trafficking, racketeering, and charges beginning Monday morning.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I knew he's innocent. So
you say you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
This is going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Are they going to? Is it going to go on for weeks? And
for sure, weeks.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
I'm telling you that, yes, TD Jakes is Kim Porter. So you tell me what they was doing. I'm not going to express how I feel about that because I don't.
Mark Agnifilo, when he would challenge or question some of those jurors and whether they really have the ability to be impartial. A number of those jurors expressed that they have seen the video of Combs' home being raided in Miami last year, or of course that infamous video from 2016 of Combs in the hotel with his then girlfriend Cassie Ventura.
King, how you doing this morning? How's it going, Justin? Quincy, how you feeling this morning? How are the twins?
The new lawsuit coming with Jay, the part with Jay. I go, oh shoot, like
To us, black excellence.
that had to be there.
We getting tighter. You know what I'm saying? And united we stand. And ain't nothing else.
Black excellence, they're sitting there like, yeah. It's the billionaire brunch.
Oh,
Like,
I hate you, man.
unaware of anything going on here. This is the one time I'm gonna be with you this year.
During day one of Sean Combs' criminal trial, we heard some celebrity names come up. They were listed on a people and places list that was given to prospective jurors as names that might come up during the trial when it kicks off next week. And among those names are actors Michael B. Jordan, Mike Myers, two members of the girl group Danity Kane, that's Aubrey O'Day and Dawn Richard. You also heard the name of musician Kanye West and one of Combs' sons, Christian Combs, as well as his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
Rick Ross was just called to testify against Diddy. And with that, the entire courtroom shifted. For years, Rick Ross and Diddy stood side by side, posing at parties, collaborating on tracks, flexing their wealth like untouchable kings of hip-hop. But now, Rick Ross is no longer protecting the image. He's not staying quiet. He's stepping into a federal courtroom as a witness. It's official, subpoenaed, confirmed, public record. Rick Ross will testify under oath in the growing criminal case against Sean Diddy Combs. And the charges? They're massive: trafficking, financial fraud, conspiracy. But Ross isn't just there as a bystander. Prosecutors believe he was inside the rooms where it all happened, at the parties, on the jets, behind the curtain. And now they want him to talk. Sources close to the case say Ross was approached by federal agents weeks ago. After a closed-door negotiation, the court issued a directive. Ross will take the stand. The government wants him to provide first-hand context on how Diddy operated his empire behind the scenes, how the public parties were just a front, and the real power plays were darker, dirtier, and deeply criminal. This is the moment Diddy always feared, because Rick Ross knows everything. They weren't just business partners, they were tight. They shared stages, brand deals, women, private travel, and confidential business arrangements. They went on international tours together, hosted VIP events in South Beach and Vegas, and were often spotted partying deep into the night, sometimes with celebrities, sometimes with total unknowns. According to newly unsealed documents, Ross was present at 6 separate gatherings now under federal investigation. These weren't just industry mixers. Prosecutors allege they were orchestrated cover-ups for coercion, financial funneling, and silence buying. In one document labeled Confidential, Level 1, Ross's name appears on a guest list for a 3-day private island retreat organized by Diddy's team. The feds now claim that trip was used to secure NDAs, stage influencer content, and reinforce a culture of secrecy. Ross didn't respond to the first subpoena, so the court escalated. They filed a motion to compel testimony, citing Ross's direct proximity to events under investigation. That motion was granted. And just like that, the boss himself is headed to the witness stand. This is a tectonic shift. Rick Ross built his brand on loyalty, on being a real one. But the moment the feds came knocking, everything changed. Legal analysts believe Ross was faced with a choice: stay silent and risk getting pulled into the charges, or testify and stay protected. And the documents suggest he chose survival. A leaked affidavit shows prosecutors plan to question Ross about financial transactions tied to hospitality events funded through Diddy's holding companies. Specifically, they want to know about a luxury penthouse suite in Vegas where, according to eyewitnesses, Ross and Diddy held a strategy session after the first civil suits were filed. That's right. While the world was learning about the first public accusations, Ross and Diddy were allegedly already planning damage control. Encrypted messages recovered from Diddy's phone included texts between him and Ross discussing keeping loyalty tight and making sure the circle doesn't crack. The circle cracked, and Ross is the one testifying. Inside sources say the prosecutors see Ross as a credibility booster. He's not a victim, he's not a rival, he's an insider, someone the jurors will recognize as part of Diddy's core. If Ross admits to what he saw, the prosecution's case becomes bulletproof. The media went into meltdown when the news broke. Every major outlet ran with it. Rick Ross subpoenaed in Diddy trial. Federal court names Rick Ross as key witness. Friend turned witness, Ross to take the stand. And fans? Stunned. This is the same man who once rapped about being untouchable. The same mogul who built Maybach Music Group, dined with billionaires, and called Diddy my brother for life. Now he's cooperating. His lawyers haven't denied it. In fact, they've gone silent. No press releases, no denials. Just cold, strategic silence. And that silence speaks volumes. Federal agents have already reviewed Ross's travel records, bank statements, and archived communications with Diddy. Multiple redacted transcripts suggest Ross had full knowledge of how Diddy's social events were funded, and how hush money was allegedly funneled to victims through third-party accounts. And here's the part that truly changes everything. Investigators believe Ross was at one of the now infamous Code Red meetings, where Diddy's inner circle gathered to decide how to suppress mounting allegations before the first raid. One witness, listed as Victim 7 in sealed documents, claims Ross looked visibly uncomfortable during that meeting, that he didn't speak much, that he tried to leave early, but he stayed. Now, the court wants to know, what exactly did Rick Ross witness that night? What did Diddy say? What was promised? And why is Ross finally talking now? Prosecutors are expected to ask Ross about specific nights in LA, hotel party rosters, and the logistics of so-called invitation-only events. They'll want to know how guests were vetted, what instructions were given, and whether Ross ever saw victims being silenced, paid, or pressured. And they'll bring receipts, because the digital evidence is massive. Encrypted chats, photo metadata, security footage, voice notes, transaction records. A forensic expert who testified during pre-trial hearings said the government recovered over 2 terabytes of data from devices linked to Diddy, and Ross's name appears hundreds of times. This is no longer a friendship. This is a witness account, and it cuts deep. Ross's testimony may be the nail in the coffin. It's the moment jurors hear from someone who was part of the machine, not just someone hurt by it. And for Diddy, it's betrayal of the highest order. But betrayal only happens when there's something to hide. Coming up next, Diddy panics in real time, tries to escape the courthouse, but the feds were ready. What happened next shocked everyone. The second Rick Ross agreed to testify, Diddy lost it. Everyone in the courtroom knew something had changed. The energy around Diddy, usually cocky, loud, and untouchable, was suddenly anxious, paranoid, and twitchy. And just hours before his pretrial hearing, he did the unthinkable. He tried to escape. Surveillance footage from the courthouse shows it all. Diddy arrived in a luxury black SUV. He stepped out, sunglasses on, flanked by 2 security guards. Everything looked normal, until he saw the media swarm. But it wasn't just the cameras. It was the knowledge that Rick Ross was going to testify. His own ally, now a federal witness. And that's when it happened. Instead of heading through the metal detectors like everyone else, Diddy spun around and made a break toward the private side entrance, an exit used only for emergency transfers. One of the guards shouted, lunging after him. He didn't make it far. Federal marshals intercepted him immediately. No violence, no handcuffs, but the message was loud and clear. You are not above the law. Within minutes, court security logged the incident. A formal report was filed, and the media? They pounced. Diddy tries to flee court after Ross' subpoena. Breaking, Diddy panic runs from courthouse door. Courtroom drama as Diddy flinches under pressure. The timing couldn't be worse. The judge overseeing the case had already raised concerns about Diddy's behavior in recent weeks. Missed appointments, shifting legal statements, and now, a failed court escape? That wasn't a mistake. That was fear. Because Diddy knows what Rick Ross is about to say. And it's not just career-ending, it's criminal. The courtroom was buzzing even before Diddy walked in. Lawyers whispered, reporters typed furiously, marshals stood tense. Then the doors opened, and there he was, Sean Combs, once a music mogul, now a man with shaking hands and a lawyer gripping his arm. He sat down, adjusted his collar, took a long sip of water, but everyone knew what had happened just outside those doors. The judge entered the room. Silence fell. First words out of the prosecution's mouth, Your Honor, we have serious concerns about the defendant's intent to comply with federal process. They didn't even hesitate. The government confirms the defendant attempted to use an unauthorized entrance to avoid court protocol. We believe this incident indicates potential flight risk. Diddy's lawyers scrambled. It was a misunderstanding, one said. He was looking for privacy from the press. The judge shook her head. Attempting to bypass security isn't a request for privacy. It's a breach of protocol, and a serious one. Then she dropped the gavel. Mr. Combs, you will remain under strict travel restrictions effective immediately. No flights, no unmonitored movement. Your actions suggest intent to avoid court jurisdiction. That will not be tolerated. And then came the final blow. The prosecutor stood up again. One more note, Your Honor. Mr. Ross has officially accepted a court subpoena. He will be testifying under oath. We have flight logs, digital communication, and statements placing Mr. Ross at the heart of this enterprise. Diddy froze. The courtroom did too. The man who once called Ross his day one was now the star witness for the prosecution. The room felt like it tilted sideways. Ross wasn't just any witness. He was the key. He saw how the money moved. He heard how the victims were handled. He partied with Diddy for years. He knew every corner of that world. And now, he's talking. Diddy's legal team begged the judge to seal the announcement. It could prejudice the jury, they argued. But the judge wasn't moved. If Mr. Ross has relevant information, and if the prosecution has followed correct procedure, his testimony is not just admissible, it's necessary. After that, Diddy went silent. No comments, no outbursts, just stone-cold stillness. He knew it was over. The courtroom emptied in stunned silence. Outside, reporters shouted the headlines before they even typed them. Ross versus Diddy begins in court. Flight risk, Diddy loses it after Ross flip. Government has the boss. Diddy can't run now. And they're right, because next, we'll see how Diddy's entire empire starts to fall. Brand by brand, dollar by dollar, betrayal by betrayal. The moment the world heard that Rick Ross was testifying, Diddy's entire kingdom started to fall apart. The man once known for controlling the narrative suddenly had no control at all. And the empire he spent decades building, it started burning to the ground, fast. Let's start with the brands. Rock, terminated, effective immediately. The liquor giant that Diddy once turned into a billion-dollar name dropped him with a cold surgical press release. We no longer have any contractual partnership with Sean Combs or his entities. The message was blunt. He's toxic now. Revolt TV imploded. Executives began resigning. Shareholders called for emergency meetings. Sponsors started fleeing within hours of Rick Ross's name entering the witness list. Multiple shows were pulled. A leaked internal memo called the situation irreparable. Next came his music label, Bad Boy Records. Artists distanced themselves. Managers resigned. Royalty negotiations were frozen. And suddenly, Diddy's name wasn't just disappearing from headlines, it was vanishing from album credits and social feeds. Spotify quietly downranked his catalogs. Apple Music removed his curator status. Companies that once celebrated him were now erasing him in real time. But that was just the public front. Behind closed doors, it got worse. Over 75 civil lawsuits are now tied to Diddy, stretching back 30 years. But after Ross agreed to testify, the government confirmed that at least 9 new federal witnesses had come forward in less than 72 hours. Why? Because Ross flipped. He broke the silence. And once he did, others followed. Event planners, bodyguards, financial analysts, executives, even former artists. They saw the power shift and jumped ship, some for protection, some for revenge, and some for truth. And the government? They were ready. Armed with subpoenas and search warrants, they moved fast. Laptops were seized, private homes were searched. A Florida storage unit registered to a Combs shell company was raided and found to contain hard drives, receipts, and gag order agreements. One document, labeled Confidential Loyalty Agreements, included Rick Ross's signature. That document? Now evidence. Investigators also uncovered international transfers routed through offshore accounts tied to Diddy's touring revenue. These transfers were labeled consulting fees, hospitality support, and production surcharges. But prosecutors believe it was all coded hush money. And Ross? He saw the transactions. He attended the meetings. He watched it all go down. Now he's telling the court what he saw. Even more damaging, financial tech experts working with the prosecution revealed an internal ledger linking Diddy's personal credit card to expenses logged during Code Red party weekends, events that several witnesses described as controlled environments of coercion. And Rick Ross was there. The court has receipts, literally. One photo shows Ross and Diddy side by side at an exclusive rooftop event in Manhattan. The time-stamped metadata matches a night when prosecutors say illegal transactions were logged into Diddy's private ledger. Ross doesn't deny the photo, but now he's testifying under oath that the image was just the surface, that the real operation happened off-camera. As this information went public, Diddy's support system collapsed. Publicists quit. Legal reps jumped ship. His longtime business manager filed to dissolve their working relationship, citing incompatibility with legal requirements. And the internet? Turned on him overnight. No more nostalgia. No more respect. No more second chances. Because now, even his closest ally had turned into a witness. There are no comebacks from this. Not when the man who once called you a brother is now preparing to look you in the eye and testify against you under oath. Not when the FBI has boxes of evidence. Not when the court has timelines, messages, bank trails, and sworn witness after sworn witness, starting with Rick Ross. Diddy thought he could run the game forever, but the game ran out. He tried everything: money, intimidation, silence, but none of it worked. Not when Ross stepped forward. Because when Rick Ross flipped, it changed the rules. This wasn't a smear campaign. This was justice. Prosecutors are planning to use Ross as the spine of their case. He's not just a name on a list. He's a guide through the entire operation. The one person who saw the machine from the inside and lived to tell about it. They'll ask him about private jets, backroom deals, NDAs, red flag payouts, and cover-up instructions. They'll walk the jury through text logs, audio messages, video footage, and payment plans. Every trail that leads back to Diddy. And Diddy? He's got nothing left to shield him. Not the brands, not the money, not the industry connections. Everyone's running for cover. Because when the first domino falls, when Ross testifies, everyone else will follow. And the walls Diddy spent years building around himself will collapse with them. It's already started. Multiple co-defendants are reportedly negotiating plea deals. 2 of Diddy's former assistants have agreed to provide digital records from old burner phones. The prosecution is preparing to issue indictments across multiple states. And inside the courtroom, Diddy sits frozen, defeated, done. Because this isn't a redemption arc. This is the end. The judge has already signaled this trial could last months, and the government intends to prove that Diddy's entire operation was built on exploitation, fear, and manipulation. Rick Ross was part of that world. Now he's the one helping destroy it. And as the jury hears his words, as the evidence mounts, and as the public finally sees the full picture, one thing becomes painfully clear. Diddy can't talk his way out of this. He can't dance his way around it, and he definitely can't run anymore. This isn't just a scandal, it's a collapse. And the man who thought he was untouchable, he's finally facing everything. No more bodyguards, no more boardrooms, just truth, evidence, and justice. and Rick Ross leading the charge.